October the 30th, 1993. On this day, a Hollywood heartthrob will die from a massive overdose of cocaine and heroin.
The call came in sometime after midnight. It came in as a seizure up on Sunset Boulevard at the Viper Room.
I walked out and I literally cartwheeled over him. He was lying on the sidewalk getting resuscitated by paramedics.
I didn't understand what had happened. You know, half an hour ago, he was, you know, seemingly no problem. And then boom.
This is the story of the last 24 hours of River Phoenix. Los Angeles, Saturday, October the 30th, 1993. River Phoenix wakes early. To the world, he's Hollywood's golden boy. Vegan, ethically minded, squeaky clean. The truth is very different. For over 2 years, River has been struggling to overcome a drug problem. Today, that problem will overcome him. River is working on a film called Dark Blood. He's been on the film for 2 months and has stayed off drugs all that time. But when he arrives for the last day of filming, director George Slauser notices River is behaving strangely.
There was a difference in, I say, body language. He could not judge distances perfectly well, and his walk was a little different than normal. He was someone who would never sit longer than, I think, 20 minutes without standing up from a chair. And that day he sat maybe for an hour without moving from the chair. He had been taking drugs the night before. That was obvious.
River has an on-again, off-again drug habit, but recently he's been finding that habit harder to manage. Until today, he's been clean on set, but it's been a struggle.
I saw him during the shooting of Dark Blood. He was in bad shape during that. And I think that had more to do with the drug problem at that point. It was a difficult film. He was having a difficult time on it, trying to stop, detoxing, the pressure of having to do the role when you're not physically ready. It was a difficult, really difficult time for him.
Now, for the first time on the shoot, it looks like River is losing the battle.
And I got a call on my machine, and he says, it's River. He said, maybe I can see you over the weekend. He says, you know, I'm having a real hard time keeping my head above water. He says, in this crazy business. It was the first time I ever heard any uncertainty in River's voice.
So far, River Phoenix has had a charmed passage through Hollywood. Now, on the set of his 14th film, he's coming apart. River was 9 years old when his family moved to Hollywood. By the time he was 15, he was already getting noticed. He just had something special.
The first time I laid eyes on River Phoenix was when I was casting my movie, Night in the Life of Jimmy Reardon. I'd come from lunch and somebody said, well, you're gonna meet this kid named River. I said, River, is that his real name? And she said, yeah. I said, she said, River Phoenix. I said, whoa, what a name. I walked into the little reception area, and this kid stood up. And as he walked over towards me, I saw this light around him. And it was like a halo, and it was an aura. I mean, and all of this happened within seconds. I just said, this is a star.
It was River's performance in the hit movie Stand By Me that thrust him into the limelight. Overnight, he became a teen idol. His face was on the cover of magazine after magazine, and he was getting thousands of fan letters every week. But River was more than just a pretty face. He could act too.
Every single take was excellent. You only did one take, or two maximum, and the enthusiasm and the intensity was there, so he was inspiring everybody else. People wanted to be around River.
I don't think I ever felt that something was false or fakey. I'm quite sensitive, I guess, to people who are either theatrical in the wrong way or are just saying lines which they don't understand or don't mean, you know, they don't know. It has a lot to do with, the pauses you make when you talk and how your voice goes and so on, and how, I would say, the body and the voice and the arms and the feet and everything and the eyes are in sync, or one thing. When you think or feel one thing, your feet should feel it too. If you don't, then you're acting the wrong way. And River, in that sense, was absolutely an actor, because I felt that his whole body was participating.
Soon, River was on Hollywood's A-list. He was Oscar-nominated for his role in Running on Empty, and his part in My Own Private Idaho won him the Best Actor award at the Venice Film Festival. After just a few years in Hollywood, River was earning almost $1 million a movie, and he was a pin-up the world over. But for River, the money and the recognition was not enough in itself.
He wanted really to be good in what he did. So at that level, you might say that his fame and his success was an adversary to his peace, and that he was being seen. And also knowing that his family came more and more to depend on him because he was the main breadwinner for a clan.
Aged 17, River found himself supporting his parents, 4 brothers and sisters, paid staff, and hangers-on.
He was the golden child who went to Hollywood, became a movie star, and so he had the pressure of having to support his family, to bring in income. I can only imagine that it presents a kind of pressure that, so when the work stops and you're like, ooh, what am I gonna do next? Where's the next job coming from? I know I'll get something, but, what do I do in my downtime, How do I take the pressure off? I think that's another avenue where, partying and drinking and, having that kind of life can really, present itself and as a healthy alternative. This kind of like, oh, I need this because I'm gonna have to go back to work again soon, and I'm gonna have to stay clean for that, and I'm gonna have to, I just want to be me for the small period of time, and I just want to have the pressure off. He had a lot of pressure. It's a big family to have to support and to feed and to house and clothe.
The pressure on his young shoulders was enormous, and from time to time he needed to escape. Music was one release. He would jam for hours late into the night, often falling asleep over his guitar. The other way he relieved the pressure was to take drugs. River had the money and the freedom to do whatever he wanted, and his friends knew he had to be watched.
With River, you always had, someone had to be there. Someone had to chaperone his drug use, and if they didn't chaperone his drug use, it was dangerous. It was always dangerous.
River has been on the set of the movie Dark Blood for 8 hours. He's on edge, feeling terrible after a late night taking drugs, and so far today, all he's done is sit and wait.
It took us all day to set it up because we had just come back to LA and we had other sets, and so, the actors had to wait around most of the day for this one scene.
Director George Slouser is watchful of his star.
I felt that I had to be sure that everything was going to go okay. It's like it's a bit silly to say, but if you have someone who's sick, then you might take along, to sit down somewhere. You take care a little more because you don't know exactly how things will develop.
First positions, please.
Finally, the cameras are ready to roll. It's time for River to perform. But of all the scenes he's ever done, the next is the one he's come to dread. He'd long idolized his co-star Judy Davis, but now he was getting the chance to work with her. She seemed to be doing everything she could to make his life a misery.
Good. Cut.
She was very difficult to work with, and we had a bad relationship. I was very irritated by the way she treated River, by making it difficult for him to act, whispering instead of talking, or when you could help, not helping. Yeah. The only time I suffered through an actress, I've never had any problems with actors ever before in my career, but she made up for 40 years or something, or 30 years, because she was in a kind of way impossible, and she made it tough for River also. He complained to me many times that she was making it tough for him.
River was so sensitive, and I don't think that he'd maybe experienced even until that particular movie, people that weren't kind to him at some level.
River felt the antagonism deeply. He phoned friends in tears. Yet for 7 long weeks he endured it, asking George Slouser to postpone the love scenes.
He asked me, can I play this scene the last day, because I don't feel like doing it halfway and touching her and whatever. I mean, he'd said, you know, I'm getting goose pimples if I have to touch her arm.
Now the scene can be delayed no longer. It'll be the last of River's short life. And in just a few hours, he'll take the drugs that will leave him fighting for his life on an LA sidewalk. River Phoenix has 16 hours to live. He's on the set of his last film, Dark Blood, and he's in a bad way. He's edgy and nervous about the next scene. It's a love scene with Judy Davis, a woman he says makes his skin crawl. But so far 3 takes are in the can, and River has held it together. Now it's take 4.
Mark it. Mark. Frame. Action.
Somebody's gonna die. Believe me.
The scene is over and the shot should have ended when the director shouted cut. But when the crew gathered 2 days later, after River had died, they realized something very strange had happened.
At the end of the 4th take, it was cut, wrap, to print. The lights came down, and River became this perfect silhouette, lit by these candles, almost like you're in a church. River walked up to the camera and stood there for about 5 seconds. And then I had realized, oh, the camera was still rolling, and I turned it off.
River died just hours after this shot was taken.
It was the eeriest thing I've ever experienced through my camera. It still gives me the chills.
Filming over, River leaves set for the night, but the day's events have left him shaken. River was emotionally fragile. The smallest thing could upset him. This vulnerability had its roots in River's childhood. River spent his early years on the road in Latin America. He wasn't River Phoenix then, he was River Bottom. His parents, John and Arlen Bottom, were missionaries for a Christian cult called the Children of God. River's dad, John, held the grand title Archbishop of Venezuela and the Caribbean. They went wherever God sent them. Mexico, Puerto Rico, Venezuela. It was an unsettled existence. They had no friends, no home. Often struggling to make ends meet, they trusted in God to provide. Actually, it was often River. At the age of 5, he and his younger sister Rain were busking on the streets to feed the family. After 3 years on the road, his parents had had enough. In Caracas, they threw themselves on the mercy of Father Stephen Wood.
I was at that time pastor of this church and had been a friend of the Children of God for many years. And this family showed up saying that they were leaving the Children of God and needed help. They had decided that they could no longer accept the directions they were receiving from headquarters, they found them increasingly at odds with what they read in the Bible.
The Children of God would later become notorious for their ideas about sex. Teaching that sex was just another way of showing God's love, couples often swapped partners. Children were encouraged to sleep in the same bed as their parents while they made love, and children were to be initiated into sexual practices at the age of 4. Whether River was involved in any sexual practices has never been ascertained. His close friends refused to talk about it. Soon after these practices were advocated, his parents wanted out, but their decision left them stranded.
They found themselves in a foreign country with absolutely no funds, no place to live, no money to buy food for their children, and no way to get back to the United States, which was their goal. They asked for hospitality and help. Meanwhile, they were going to try to earn enough to eat out of and then to see how they would somehow get back to the U.S.
Father Wood gave them room and board, and in exchange, River and Rain performed Christian songs during Sunday service.
The most well-known was that You've Got to Be a Baby, but River sang it not just in Spanish, but also in English, French. He sang it in Japanese and Swahili. I'm not sure that he was all that great of a singer, but he was a little kid. He was a great entertainer in his singing. And the fact that he could even play this huge guitar, this guitar that was so much bigger than him, was impressive. It was our most popular service, and it was literally standing room only. But he had the attention of absolutely everyone, while his little sister was out kind of working the crowd. I think on the streets where they had been trained, she would be going around asking for money. But here it was just kind of get the people to clap and to sing along.
After 4 months, Father Wood found the family a way back to Florida on a cargo ship. On arrival, they changed their name to Phoenix to symbolize a new beginning. But River's early years would leave their mark.
He told me he suffered from the upbringing. I guess part of his, vulnerability and fragility, which is also part of which why he's a good actor, is maybe due to that background. You can become strong because you have this kind of tough childhood, or you can get obviously traumatized. So I think it's a bit of both.
River was vulnerable. He took the knocks of everyday life hard, and drugs were an easy escape. River Phoenix has just 6 hours left to live. He's had a tough day on the set of his latest film, Dark Blood. But now he's back at his hotel where he can let go with his family and friends. Dickie Rude has been a close friend of River's for 2 years.
He was just in good spirits, His family was around, his brother and his sister and his girlfriend, and he was happy to be, off of the set. Things were jovial.
Dickie's wife, Abby, is River's personal assistant. Samantha Mathis has been dating River for the last 6 months. And some of River's family have flown in to see him. Joaquin, his only brother, is here. And so is Rain, River's sister, who shares his passion for music.
Yeah, Rainbow Leaf, Liberty Summer, they loved River dearly. He was the best older brother ideal you could imagine, nurturing, caring, protecting, and would go to him for advice, and he had, a great deal of experience with all of their emotions and differences.
There's no sign now of the stress he was under earlier on set.
It was a normal, welcome back to LA type of atmosphere. He was great. He seemed to be completely on his mark. There was no clue as to any kind of haywire going on or potential for that.
So far today, River has stayed clean, and that's the plan for the night ahead. He wants to keep a clear head because he's been asked to play at one of LA's coolest new clubs, the Viper Room. River is due to appear alongside one of his music heroes, but tragically, he'll never make it onto the stage. The movies dominated River's teenage life. They had to. They were his family's bread and butter. But River had grown up playing music. It was his all-consuming passion.
When he wasn't working as an actor on my movie, he was playing the guitar or he was writing music. He was always creating. I remember going to his room a lot of times, and it was music books and song and notes and everything for his music. Because one of the memories I have is River's hair hanging down over his face and River hanging over a guitar. And so I remember seeing him a lot working on his music because he loved music.
According to him, it meant to him more than the acting. Like, for him, the music, he was more into music than into being an actor. He wanted to be a musician.
At 17, he got the chance to do just that. The family moved to Gainesville, a hippie town in Florida famous for its music scene. They bought a large ranch just outside the town and employed Dirk Drake as the family tutor. And when Dirk first met River, he recognized a passion for music.
I pulled up into the driveway, and there was a room that perhaps had been a garage, I'm not sure, but had big sliding glass doors, and I got out looking around. And when I came through, this teenage kid pops up, and he's got an Ovation guitar, and he's all excited to show me the engineering of it. I just remember thinking, this kid's a musician, he's so on it, and it was so important to him to share that guitar with me. Gainesville had a thriving music scene in the mid-1980s. This was the first place that the emerging punk rock, post-punk rock scene was happening, and I think putting the band together was a primary focus in coming here and finding musicians that would be complementary to the songs he'd written and the tastes that he had.
In 1988, River formed Alika's Attic with his younger sister, Rain. He threw himself into writing, turned the garage into a rehearsal studio, and booked the band on a 2-week tour of the East Coast. He put everything into the band and secured a 2-year development deal with Island Records. If, in that time, the band could produce a good demo tape, they would finance an album. The band was River's plan for the future, and he desperately wanted to be taken seriously as a musician.
It was very difficult for River because he didn't want his name or his movie star status attached to his band's gigs. And it never seemed to fail. They'd get a gig at a club, and the proprietors of the club, I guess eager to get people through the gate, mentioned, you know, River Phoenix and his sister Rainbow. It was disappointing because he wanted his music to be taken for the music and not the music of the Hollywood star.
Any chance River got to prove that he wasn't just a teen actor with rock star pretensions, he leapt at. On his last day, he'd get such a chance. River is letting his hair down after being on set all day. He and his friends have left their hotel and are hitting the town. Just after midnight, Samantha, Rain, Joaquin and River arrive at the Viper Room, Johnny Depp's club on Sunset Strip. River has brought his guitar. In the corner of the club sits a small stage. Tonight, Johnny Depp's band will be playing. Among the lineup is Flea, bass player for the Red Hot Chili Peppers and one of River's closest friends. River's planning to get up on stage and jam with some of the best musicians in town. For this, he's staying clean. Pleasant Gaiman, LA columnist, is also in the crowd.
It was very smoky and very crowded. It's a mixture of Hollywood hipsters and band people and people that just wanted to see Johnny Depp play in a band. You know, just, you know, some giggling, teeny-boppy kind of girls. The rock scene then was really fertile in Los Angeles. It was, you know, there was a really hugely thriving underground rock scene, and the clubs had a decent crowd. They were very crowded, but they weren't overpacked with just people milling around not knowing what the hell was going on. The Viper Room, it was actually one of the first, like, cool clubs. It was trying not to be an underground shithole. There was, like, big, burly, giant security men there with earpieces and the whole velvet rope mentality, and it was really excessive. It was really Hollywood. It was really just gross.
Samantha, Rain, Joaquin and River find a booth at the back of the club. River's waiting to get on stage. The lineup tonight will include Al Jorgensen of Ministry, Gibby Haynes of the Butthole Surfers, and of course Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. River's happy. He's staying away from drugs so he can jam with his close friend Flea. But that's not going to happen. River and Flea had been great friends since they met 3 years earlier on the set of My Own Private Idaho. Flea, a sometime actor, had a small part in the film. Filming began in Portland, Oregon, and almost immediately cast and crew realized they were involved in something special. They worked hard, they played hard. River and many of the younger actors moved into director Gus Van Sant's house. The day's work on set would be followed by jam sessions late into the night. This footage was shot by River's friend, Matt Ebert.
When he and Flea met on Idaho, you know, they got along like, you know, brother and brother. Like, they just went arm in arm into the sunset with it. Like, they just, you know, played guitar together and really, like, you know, became really close friends almost immediately.
Flea was fascinated by River's talent as an actor, and River is a fantastic actor who is wanting to be a musician, so it's a natural attraction and a natural source of friendship and learning for each other.
He loved him. He loved Flea. River was crazy about Flea.
From this moment on, River and Flea became inseparable, and on his last day, Flea would be with River until the very end. Inside the Viper Room, River has made his way to the stage. He's expecting to join the band, but there's a problem. Homicide detective Mike Lee later pieced together the events of the evening.
What's going on? What?
When he arrived there were more than enough musicians, as there quite often is in that type of a situation, so he could not get up onto the stage and play that particular night.
Well, I got good news and bad news. You go first. Give me the bad news. Give me the good news. I love you. But you can't play the name. You're serious?
I heard through some of the people that we talked with that Flea was the one who said, no, you can't come up and play.
Play bass.
Mr. Phoenix was disappointed that he wasn't able to get up on and join in the jam session, and because of that disappointment, he elected to get into the drugs.
River idolized Flea as a person and a musician and was excited about playing side by side with him on stage. Now he's been shut out, he retreats into the crowd and begins to look for drugs.
If you were of a mind that you wanted to go in and party with drugs, they were available. And, you know, it was your choice, whatever you wanted to do. It was not at all hard to find drugs out on the strip.
There was drugs everywhere. Probably the main things were cocaine and heroin. Plus, at the age of early to mid-20s, you still have the hallowed misconception that you're immortal. You know, you still look pretty. You don't really get a hangover, you know? I mean, you can, sure, I can do all of this, you know? It's not gonna have any consequences.
All right, you know what? I know what you need. I know what you need.
So I know that he was disappointed, and being disappointed in something I think we've all been there, where instead of reaching over and closing the door, you sometimes slam the door.
River is about to take the drugs that will kill him. My Own Private Idaho introduced River to Flea. It was also where his drug use first became dangerous. By 1989, River had played some interesting roles, but they were all safe, chosen for him by his mother and agent as suitable for the River Phoenix image. Yet River longed for something different, dangerous and adult, longed for a role he could call his own. The script for My Own Private Idaho offered that role. This was an art house film about male prostitutes based on a play by Shakespeare, about as different and edgy as River could have hoped for.
It was very, very cool at that point in time in youth culture to focus on the dark side and focus on the beautiful loser and the romantic lost boys and girls of our culture. And River was attracted to that and curious about it. And this was his chance to jump into it.
His character, Mike Waters, was a heroin-addicted rent boy, and River was determined to do the part justice. With his personal assistant, Matt Ebert, River spent days hanging with rent boys on the streets of Portland, Oregon.
Now we're mixing ourselves up with street kids and, you know, boys and girls, young boys and girls, and the drug element is there. We have dealers, we have Johns, we have, you know, we're kind of on the underbelly of all of Portland, trying to scrape up some history. We're going to bookshops and, you know, little bathhouses and, you know, looking for any kind of seedy. We're looking for it because we have to recreate it. We have to, you know, do it, and we want to do it right. We don't want to just, you know, invent, you know, this for an audience. We want to create, we want to reflect it. And we want to do it honestly. He was really into research. He was very big on, like, okay, I got to learn all about these characters. We'd go into what they call Vaseline Alley, and we'd meet street hustlers, and we'd take them home and we'd interview them.
Here I am walking in the motel room in my bathtub. I stand next to you, and I say, so you're gonna take your pants off. Mm-hmm. What is your reaction?
Mind-boggling stuff, you know, like the lives you would run into with this. And you're thinking, you know, here I am with this. We're actually doing, you know, trying to find out what it's like to do that, you know, what these kids actually have to go through. And a lot of it was really painful, you know. And I think that while it can feed an actor, it also can be dangerous. You know, the closer you come to a really dangerous environment and a situation, the closer that environment gets to you, too.
One of the fundaments of acting is research. You know, there's a certain amount you can bring from within, but then there's a lot you need from without. And when we were on the streets of Idaho, and he was acting, and we were all acting with street kids who were literally heroin addicts, and you knew they were heroin addicts because they had tracks in their hands, and they talked about it on the film. So that River would try that would be, I can't imagine him not trying that, actually. I mean, being as young as he was, and as brave as he was.
Depending on how you're looking at it.
River had drunk before, smoked some dope, snorted some coke, but all was in moderation. Now he knew no restraints. As the parties at Gus's rolled on night after night, his drug use escalated.
Because I feel there's a theme.
Xanax, Valium, Vicodin, Percodan, Percocet, you know, drug after drug after pill after pill after pill, smoking pot, drinking alcohol, snorting cocaine, snorting heroin or smoking heroin. We did a lot of drugs. You know, we did a lot of drugs.
What had started as character research was now becoming much more dangerous.
We're not made of Teflon. We're skin and bones. And, you know, I think that's when, you know, that's when his addiction really started to take off.
However hard he battled it, the urge would always be there. In moments of stress or anxiety, the temptation would be hard to resist. The Viper Room, the club which will become infamous in less than 1 hour, is nearing capacity as Johnny Depp's band gets going. Upset that he couldn't get on stage and jam with Flea, Rivers scored some drugs. He heads into the bathroom to collect.
Here he is coming off a period of a dry spell where he's working on a movie that's not going well. And he's frustrated and he needs release and he needs to relax. And all he can think of to do is, you know, go out and get loaded.
Rain, Joaquin and River's girlfriend, Samantha Mathis, are in a booth at the back of the club. They're completely unaware of the horror that's about to unfold.
He ingested a quantity of drug that appeared to be heroin and cocaine in powder form. It appears that it was snorted, and the reaction was almost immediate.
River has snorted a speedball, cocaine and heroin mixed together.
When it works great. When it doesn't work, you die. That's like Russian roulette.
Several sources told me that the words were, this is too much, or words almost to that effect, too much, too much.
River is clearly in trouble. Someone offers him a Valium to calm him down. His heart is beating wildly, misfiring. The cocaine causing it to race out of control, the heroin telling him to slow. He stumbles out into the bar. He has just 1 hour to live. River's drug habit really took hold after My Own Private Idaho. He began to spend more and more time in LA. Part of the reason was his growing friendship with Flea. But LA was dangerous for River. The crowds he ran with partied hard.
It's hard to be young and cool and hip in Los Angeles with money and time and shitloads of exotic drugs at your disposal. There's a point at which drugs, sex, rock and roll can be personally, maybe culturally, artistically rewarding, and there's a point where they can be very destructive. And River was finding those boundaries.
More often than not, River was crossing those boundaries.
My band, the Ringling Sisters, was holding we used to do annual orphanage benefits. Anyway, at one of them we were having at the Roxy. There was a really cute boy passed out backstage in the hallway and just getting worse and worse, like sweating and just, looking like he wasn't getting up. And I was like running around being a stage manager and making, doing raffles with the audience and stuff. And finally, I looked down and I'm like, who is that really cute and really fucked up boy that's laying on the floor? We have to get him out of here. And someone said, that's River Phoenix. I'm like, that's River Phoenix? Jesus.
In the periods between Idaho and going back to Oregon to work on Even Cowgirls Get the Blues and seeing him then, it was taking its toll. The drugs were definitely beating him down. And, his skin was getting bad, his hair was getting bad. Everything just looked rougher and, more ripped up.
River's family were concerned about his visible deterioration and confronted him. But River refused to admit he had a problem.
They were such a beautiful spiritual family and so supportive of him in so many ways. But, like most families, I think a little painfully unaware of the realities that he was going through in terms of the drug addiction.
The family home had always been River's refuge. It was a place he could rest, recuperate, and clean up. But life at home had changed. The family was now attracting hordes of hangers-on. Many of them had drug habits and just wanted to party with the young movie star. Temptation was everywhere.
I turned to River and said, a lot of these people are not very well educated and they're completely reactionary and they're just partying hardy and living a glamorous life from one moment to the next. And if they're fucking their lives up, it's not your responsibility and you shouldn't enable that. And if they're fucking your life up, then it's your responsibility to detach yourself from that.
By his last year, River was working hard to clean up his act. But the temptation was always there. Clean periods were always followed by a binge. River's life became a struggle.
Those months were tough. They were tough on everybody who was hovering around the supernova, because it all of a sudden just exploded and was gone.
Inside the Viper room, River has just taken a massive overdose of cocaine and heroin. His body is struggling to survive, but he can still be saved. He just needs help, fast. River Phoenix has less than an hour to live. He's gone to the Viper room on LA's Sunset Strip. His sister Rain, brother Joaquin, and girlfriend Samantha Mathis are in a booth drinking. They think River's on stage getting ready to jam with friends. Actually, he's been shut out of the jam session and, disappointed, has just snorted a massive speedball, cocaine and heroin combined. River's body has gone into shock.
It's one thing to use heroin and cocaine and everything on a daily basis. Your system becomes used to it. Your tolerance stays the same. But when you start and stop and start and stop and start and stop and then always go back to where you left off, you run the risk of overdosing and killing yourself. He was a kid. Kids make mistakes.
Back at the table, River's having a difficult time. It's obvious he's not feeling well, but no one's aware of the effects that the drugs are having on his internal organs. Toxicologist Dan Anderson later analyzed River's blood.
There was a very significant amount of heroin and cocaine in his system. There was so much cocaine there, it's astronomical. It's 8 times what we consider lethal. He either didn't realize the purity of the drug and took his standard amount that he normally took, or he took way too much. A body can only tolerate so much. And after that tolerance is over with, you're gonna die of the drug.
What started out as a fun family reunion is rapidly turning into a nightmare.
Hey, wait a minute!
By his last year, River's drug use had hit its peak. Friends and family pleaded with him to get clean. He started to listen, and the periods between binges grew longer. He began working on a new music project with Sasa Raphael. In April, River was approached about a new film, Dark Blood, but there were worries that his drug use had taken too large a toll and he needed to rest.
I called River more or less every 2 weeks when he was in Florida. And I wanted to know if he was okay and if he was still in a good mood, if he still liked the story. A little bit, if you want, not to check, but to feel how he was. And I was aware, obviously, that he had been taken drugs before. I was hoping that he would be, I would say, calm.
River's father, John, had recently moved to a farm in Costa Rica, but he realized there was a problem and intervened.
His father flew up from his farm, and he never does that. He didn't, at this time, he was just was not interested in coming to this part of the world at all. But he flew up specifically to convince his son not to go film the next movie.
John was just saying, give it a break. I would hope that you can get back to the garden. Take a break. Don't do any more projects for a while. Come live in Costa Rica. Work in the garden. Let's get back to being a family.
But River wanted to work with co-star Judy Davis, whom he admired so much. And he was the family breadwinner. He had some 30 people to support. He decided to do the movie. For 7 weeks, the cast and crew of Dark Blood lived and worked in the middle of the Utah desert. All that time, River stayed clean.
I was quite busy, so that there were many times when I started to get the feeling I am so busy with, the preparation of the shoot and the cameras and the this and the that I was not spending maybe enough time with River.
Finally, the location wrapped, and the production was moved back to LA for 2 weeks in the studio. River was heading back to Partyland. He took his leave from director George Slouser.
for leaving, he said, okay, bye, going back to the bad, bad town of LA. And I didn't realize what he meant with the word bad. Unfortunately, only after his death, I started to understand what the implications were in the word for him.
4 days later, River would snort the speedball that killed him. Inside the club, River has been suffering badly from a drug overdose, vomiting and passing out. At first, Rain and Joaquin weren't aware of just how bad things had got, but as his condition worsens, they drag him outside for some air. As soon as River's body hits the street, he goes into seizures. The vegan with the squeaky clean image is now dying of a drug overdose.
The people around him at that time, it was a kid, his brother, young kid, Joaquin, and he's dying in front of them, and they don't know what to do. And the people in the bar don't know what to do. They watch this celebrity move around, and they watch this famous person. Do we say something is happening to this famous person? The fame itself kept him from getting what he needed to live.
Whether the fact that River is a celebrity, or the fact that drugs are involved, or the fact that they're terrified by this sudden turn of events, the result is the same. No one calls for an ambulance for a full 5 minutes. Finally, Joaquin takes action. All 911 calls are recorded. This is Joaquin's call.
Yeah, he's having seizures on Sunset and Larrabee. Please come here. Okay, calm down a little bit, okay? What's the address where you need us? It's Sunset and Larrabee. It's at the Viper Room. He's laying on the cement. Is he breathing? I don't know. The last I checked, they said he was breathing. Is he fucking breathing? I don't know if he's breathing. Please, you gotta get over here with the ambulance. Who's with him right now? My sister and some people. Your sister? Yeah. Okay, can you talk to her from where you are? God, she's trying to give him mouth-to-mouth. Please get over here, please. Calm down, okay? Sir, calm down. Tell her not to give him mouth.
It's 4 more minutes before the paramedics arrive. River is lying still. His seizures have stopped and his breathing is shallow. The speedball is attacking his heart. Beating wildly out of sync, his heart is failing, pumping little or no blood. He's running out of time.
River Phoenix was lying on the sidewalk, unresponsive, with a couple of friends around him. And he was pulseless, he was non-breathing, and had no heart activity. We immediately started CPR, intubated him to control his airway, and started an IV, and gave him a series of drugs in an attempt to restart his heart.
Back at the Hotel Nico, 2 of River's closest friends, Dickie and Abby Rood, have no idea their friend is in trouble.
We got a phone call at the hotel, a hysterical phone call. I can't remember from who, whether it was his brother or his sister. We jumped in the car and rushed up the street. It wasn't that far away, but it was a terrifying shock. A terrifying shock to see your best friend lying on the sidewalk with paramedics standing over him and a crowd of people around dressed up in Halloween costumes, and it was just incomprehensible for me.
Having failed to restart his heart, the paramedics prepare to transport the lifeless young actor to the closest emergency room. News of the incident has spread into the club. Flea runs outside and demands to travel with River to the hospital. But it's too late for River Jude Phoenix. He's pronounced dead at 1:51 a.m., October 31st, 1993.
I remember when I heard about it, I remember where I was. I remember being just devastated, that he died that way, And I was surprised, despite thinking that I wouldn't be surprised.
I've heard people say it was his time and he was ready to go, and that's bullshit. That's bullshit. He loved life and he cherished and nurtured life around him, and I'm sure his own would have been right there with it as something cherished and nurtured.
I went with his sister and we brought his ashes home. And I remember this as long as I live. I gave his ashes to his mother, and she held them like a baby. And it was one of the most tragic things I've ever seen in my life.
He's become a kind of mystical being in people's lives, somebody that inspires them, not because of his tragedy, but because of that quality that he had, which was always spiritual, so that when you see him, that magical thing didn't die with him.
He was a good friend. He brought out the best in you. And I miss him a lot.
John F. Kennedy Jr. was an American prince, the son of a beloved president and a beautiful trend-setting aristocrat.
The enormity of the experience that this kid had to go through is amazing.
My father stood before you.
He carried the weight of public expectation on his shoulders.
He knew that he was being groomed. He knew that everyone had a plan.
Hounded by paparazzi and constant gossip column headlines, John takes refuge in his passion for flying.
John, are we lost?
No, we're fine,
John!
I miss the little boy I knew. I miss him so much, you know.
Why did he decide to fly that evening, risking his own life and the lives of his loved ones? New York City, July 15th, 1999. John Kennedy Jr. begins the last 24 hours of his life. He is more than a celebrity. He's American royalty, a cultural icon. It's early evening, and John is meeting his wife Carolyn and her sister Lauren at the Stanhope Hotel bar in New York City. He's nursing a broken ankle sustained when he crash-landed his ultralight aircraft 6 weeks ago. John, Carolyn, and Lauren had planned to fly to the wedding of John's cousin, Rory Kennedy, but there's a problem. John's marriage is in trouble, and Carolyn doesn't want to go. John moved out of the couple's Tribeca loft to a room here at the Stanhope Hotel just 2 days ago.
Well, John had a fight with Carolyn, and she was such a high-maintenance person that you didn't make up with her in 5 minutes. It would take hours or maybe even days to make up with her from one of their big fights. And so he stayed at a hotel. He went off and stayed at a hotel. Again, it didn't mean they were separating. It just meant the intensity of their argument and how the seriousness of the discussions they would have to have.
They both had a very strong temper, not temper, but character. You know, Caroline had a very, very strong character.
Carolyn has been overwhelmed by the public attention that follows John everywhere he goes.
She didn't know who she was. She got lost a little bit, and that was a big problem.
Well, John had no idea when he married Carolyn that she would be unable to deal with the media pressure. After all, she was in public relations beforehand. She seemed to love to be in the limelight. She seemed to be the perfect wife for John. But immediately after their honeymoon, they come back to their flat in Soho, and she can't deal with it. There are the photographers waiting there. She simply can't deal with it, and she becomes a recluse. She just stays in that apartment for days on end.
I won't take no for an answer.
In an effort to broker a compromise, Carolyn's sister, Lauren Bissett, has pressured the couple to meet for drinks.
It'll be a great idea. We'll all fly up together and we'll have fun.
She encourages them to put aside their differences, at least for the weekend, and go as planned to John's cousin's wedding.
Why don't you just put the last few weeks behind you? I just want this to stop. What is the matter with you two? Excuse me.
John cherishes Kennedy family gatherings.
She's so stubborn, my little sister.
It's a chance for him to shed the public persona and relax with people who've shared triumphs and tragedies with him all his life.
The Kennedys have had so much tragedy. They're used to circling the wagons. They're used to pulling together, grieving together, and resolving together. I've never seen a family like it. They're always there for one another.
I want to try.
Carolyn finally agrees. They will all fly together tomorrow afternoon.
Control freak. But I love you for it.
John, Carolyn, and Lauren have just 23 hours to live.
John, how do you feel about special?
John F. Kennedy Jr. lived his entire life in the public eye. He was America's most eligible bachelor and, according to People magazine, the sexiest man alive. He dated film stars and married the socialite Carolyn Bessette. He was on tabloid front pages and a regular in celebrity gossip columns.
He wasn't thrown into a fire or a glare of media lights. He grew up there. I mean, he was the best at it. But it had this innocence about it. And that is probably the greatest lesson I learned from my friend was, don't be cynical. And to hear it from him was a beautiful thing.
I'm not a political leader, but I can speak for those of my age.
John lived with endless speculation about whether he had the ability to follow in the footsteps of a father he never knew. 38 years earlier, John Kennedy Jr. made history as the first child born to a US president-elect. John and Jackie Kennedy took Washington by storm, ushering in a whole new era.
The whole thing just changed. The wines, the food, the way people dressed, the way people felt about coming to the White House. The people who were honored there, the Nobel Prize winners, the intellects, the great museum directors, the university presidents. The guest lists were quality, 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 instead of politics, politics, politics.
The interest in it was unprecedented in American history. The magazines, the covers of the magazines, television, newspapers, radio, just nothing but the Kennedys.
John and his sister Caroline's enchanted childhood was constantly documented by an adoring media.
Kennedy's being the first television administration, as it were really a novelty in American history, and young, vibrant, energetic, charismatic couple with the two golden children. I mean, the first two kids to grow up in the White House since, I think, the days of Grover Cleveland.
Little John just caught everybody's hearts. He was so handsome and so natural and responsive.
But soon this idyllic time would be cut short by tragedy. John Kennedy Jr. has less than 22 hours to live. His marriage is in trouble and he's living alone in a New York hotel. Earlier this evening, John and his wife Carolyn were reconciled thanks to her sister Lauren. Now he's turned his attention to problems with work. 4 years ago, John launched a political magazine called George, but now sales have slowed and the magazine is floundering. John is up late, struggling to create a business plan to save the venture.
He had a magazine that was in trouble. It might fold if he didn't get an infusion of cash.
George was an important stepping stone for John Jr. It was something that he endeavored to do prior to entering the field of politics, which I think he recognized as an inevitable part of his life.
John will meet his publisher in the morning. His attempt to be regarded as a serious player in publishing will be tested.
Dealing with the bare-bone business of George was difficult for him. He did not enjoy it. He had to put on a suit and go into the boardroom and get berated.
John is under maximum stress, just when his life will depend on clear thinking. It's been a long day. He needs to get some sleep. Tomorrow morning's meeting could determine John Jr.'s fledgling political career. "36 years earlier, President John Kennedy and his spirited 2-year-old son had developed a unique bond.
President Kennedy was so thrilled to have a son, but he was like every father. Every father is thrilled to have a son. And here was this beautiful boy. And so he loved it when little John came to his office and examined everything and played with everything.
But on November 22nd, 1963, John Kennedy Jr.'s charmed childhood ended with a gunshot. His father was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. The president was buried on John's 3rd birthday.
He said often that he remembered nothing of his father, not even that famous scene where he's saluting the horse-drawn carriage that's carrying his father's body.
This image would haunt John for the rest of his life.
He was, in a way, in search of his father his entire life.
John Kennedy Jr. will spend much of his life trying to live up to the expectations of a man he can barely remember.
The assassination changed everything. The White House suddenly closed up like a clamshell. Usually the place was full of happy chatter and the clicking of heels on those marble hallways, but all of a sudden it was just deathly silence. It was a grief-stricken house.
It was a watershed. America had this endless optimism and promise that one sees dissipating from that day.
Just 2 weeks later, John left the White House, where he'd spent the first 3 years of his life.
Jackie and her 2 children moved into a house in Georgetown, an elegant house, but it was surrounded by paparazzi and by journalists and by tourists.
What was so terrible about it was that they couldn't go anywhere or do anything without being besieged by the press, the media. They had sightseeing buses that would stop in front of the house. Carolyn Kennedy and her brother John would leave the house and people would pounce on them and tear at them and grab their clothes.
It was impossible for her to have the real life she wanted to have for her family.
In less than a year, Jackie fled with her children to New York City. Desperate for a father figure for her young son, Jackie turned to Bobby Kennedy. Robert Kennedy's courage and determination to follow in his brother's footsteps and run for the presidency made a huge impression on John Jr.
Joseph Kennedy, the Kennedy patriarch, really had trained his sons that one must pick up the banner for the next. Now it was Bobby's turn to take up that banner and to get to the White House himself.
My thanks to all of you, and now let's on to Chicago and let's win there.
But on June 6, 1968, the unimaginable happened. Just 5 years after the death of his father, John Jr.'s uncle, Robert Kennedy, was shot and killed as he campaigned for the leadership of the Democratic Party. Now, 7-year-old John Jr. was fatherless again. As an adult, John Kennedy Jr. was reluctant to speak about the tragedy he experienced as a child. But the media speculated endlessly and dubbed it the curse of the Kennedys.
The title I selected for this book, The Kennedys, Dynasty and Disaster, made a lot of sense. There seems to be some kind of a curse hanging over the Kennedys.
On John's last day, the curse would strike again. John Kennedy Jr. has 14 hours to live. Last night, he reconciled with his estranged wife, Carolyn, who agreed to join him at a family wedding at Martha's Vineyard. John plans to take Carolyn and her sister Lauren in his light aircraft. They plan to leave at 5:30 this afternoon. But John Jr. has a busy day ahead. He's already tired, having worked long into the night preparing a new business plan to save George, his political magazine, from financial disaster. This morning, John will present his new plan to the bosses at Hachette Philipacci Publishing. John's hopes for his future depend on the outcome of this meeting.
Gentlemen, always ready for good news. Have a seat.
Klieger told him, it's over, it's done, we're not gonna pick you up. After your 5-year contract is done, we've done wonderfully with the magazine, we feel you've been a great success, but it's time to move on.
John knows Hachette's CEO, Jack Klieger, is tough, but he's determined to turn the situation around.
The business plan that he had presented was a strategic plan, but it didn't have, in my opinion, enough specific tactical executions that I could then go and present that to my bosses and feel comfortable with that presentation. John was very interested in expanding the George brand, and I agreed that it was an important element of what we were doing, or what we could do. John obviously was a magnet to be on television being interviewed, but he didn't really want it to be John Kennedy as the driving force. He wanted George to be there, so he wanted to get more of his editors and more of the content onto both the television and the internet.
Hachette wants John to trade on the Kennedy name, but John has other ideas, and that's frustrated the publisher's executives.
I would like your input.
He got very, very specific, and his eyes got very straight when he said he didn't want his name taken advantage of by the company.
This is not a comfortable experience for John, but no one would ever know. He's a man who's learned too well to hide behind his public persona. With his charm offensive, the meeting goes better than expected.
Now, it's a framework in which we can
So we went through a number of specifics that I wanted him to get into, which he was prepared to do and was willing to do. But he was upbeat. He thought he could have those specifics ready for me by the end of that day, which I said, that's fine.
We're on the right track, John.
John manages to buy himself some time. Time he doesn't have.
Delighted. Have a great day.
By the age of 8, John Kennedy Jr. had lost both his father and his uncle to violent assassinations.
At that point, Jackie said, my God, if they're killing Kennedys, then my kids are next. And this is what led to the marriage with Aristotle Onassis.
Jackie's courtship with Onassis was pounced on by the media and made international headlines.
Aristotle Onassis was Greek, and he was the richest man on the planet Earth.
Jackie married Onassis in part because she liked money, and the Kennedys hadn't really left her that much money.
Less than 5 months after the death of Robert Kennedy, John's mother marries self-made shipping magnate Aristotle Onassis. But the American public was outraged. Jackie had betrayed their trust by apparently casting aside the sacred memory of their fallen hero.
Americans loved Jackie, but they loved her not as a woman with her own life. They loved her as the eternal widow.
With her children protected by the Onassis' private security force, John's life regained stability. Aristotle Onassis lavished time, love, and money on John Jr.
I think he liked Ari Onassis a lot. I think Ari liked him a lot, and I think he found Ari to be a very interesting, avuncular sort of figure.
But this oasis of calm was not destined to last. Within 3 years, the marriage between Aristotle Onassis, the Greek self-made billionaire, and Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy, the Virginia blue blood, began to fall apart.
I think that fact that they were so oil and water-ish, night and day-ish, have you call it what you will. I mean, his ideal of fun was to sit around in a nightclub till 3 in the morning, breaking glasses, dancing the Greek dances, singing the Greek songs, whereas Jackie liked to curl up with a good book at 9 p.m.
Then, tragedy once again reshapes John Jr.'s life. Aristotle Onassis loses his only son, Alexander, in a plane crash.
For the Greek, as the Kennedys used to refer to Aristotle Onassis, for the Greek to lose his one and only son was for Aristotle Onassis an absolutely tragic, traumatic, life-ending event.
Unable to cope with his loss, Ari severed all ties with young John. For the third time in less than 10 years, John Jr. lost a father figure. Just after midday, John is busy in his Manhattan office. The meeting with his publisher is forgotten as John hits the ground running. As the editor-in-chief of the magazine, he's got to push the next issue out the door.
He had deadlines. He had to do so many things, and he was responsible. And it became, I think it became a little stressful. He explained to me once that when the magazine has to go out, it has to go out. And sometimes you have to be there all night.
Locked into a frenetic pace, John is about to make a series of minor mistakes that will mean the difference between life and death.
Hello.
At 1 p.m., he gets a call from Essex Airport and arranges for his Piper Saratoga to be fueled and ready for 5:30 p.m.
This afternoon's a turnoff.
But as the afternoon unfolds, his departure plan will be delayed.
Need that 10 minutes ago. Good ending.
1:05 p.m., a pilot he regularly flies with calls to ask if he needs a co-pilot. John, inexplicably, refuses the offer.
The strangest, most inexplicable thing that happened that last day was that John didn't take a co-pilot with him. He was such a careful pilot that out of the 200 or so hours he had flown, he had an inordinate number with a co-pilot. I mean, most pilots with 200 hours would not have had 70 or 80% of those hours with a pilot beside him. But he knew he wasn't a great pilot. Why John didn't take the pilot with him is one of those things we're just never going to know.
4:30 p.m. The drive to Essex Airport takes about an hour. If he's going to make his 5:30 departure and fly to Martha's Vineyard in daylight, he should leave now. But John takes time to email his friend John Barlow to offer condolences on the death of his mother. 4:30 p.m. Running late, John calls Jack Klieger and postpones their meeting until the following week.
Hi, Jack. Hi.
And he did call me at around 4:30 or so to say that he'd gotten really backed up. They were closing an issue, and he also had some other things he had to take care of, and he had to leave for the airport that night, so he asked if he could get it to me the following week. And I said, that's fine, as long as you can see that it gets sent to me where I was just going to be on vacation not far away. So we agreed that I'd get it the following week, and that was the last conversation we had.
Yeah, I know.
5 p.m. John calls his friend Billy Noonan and says he will not be able to make his anniversary celebration. They plan to meet later that weekend, but John will never see his friend again. 6:32 p.m. John logs on to the weather service. He reads that the conditions are hazy, visibility 5 miles. But John fails to take into consideration that the measuring device only sees what is directly above.
That machine is only looking straight up in the sky. So in other words, if you have a clear sky right over the machine will report clear sky. But if you have 500 feet away a layer of fog surrounding the machine still will report a clear sky unless that fog is right over the machine.
John hasn't flown alone in his Piper Saratoga since he broke his ankle 6 weeks ago. But he's too busy putting out fires at George magazine to calmly evaluate his plan to fly. 6:40 p.m. John leaves the office more than 2 hours later than intended. He's neglected to calculate the additional time he will lose driving in Friday rush hour traffic.
Long weekend.
When you learn to fly, you are taught to follow certain procedures. Checking the weather, doing a pre-flight inspection, checking yourself, making sure that you're feeling up to it. If you skip one of them, it opens the door for error.
John has made a number of errors in judgment this afternoon. In less than 3 hours, he'll be dead. 22 years earlier, John celebrated his 16th birthday at the Kennedy compound. Despite the numerous tragedies he'd faced, friends say he embraced life with energy and enthusiasm.
Some strange appreciation of life, this desire to go out and do things, to see things, like a cat. He was just curious. He wanted to see everything and do everything.
But John was at best an average student. Teachers said he had difficulty concentrating in class.
He had a problem with ADD, attention deficit disorder. Started taking medication for that when he was a teenager, and Jackie sent him to a therapist in New York for that reason.
His mother wanted John to toughen up and experience life away from the Kennedy compound. She sent him to Guatemala as a Peace Corps volunteer, and the following summer on an outward-bound survival course.
Jackie was worried that her son wasn't serious. She was worried he was going to get in trouble, get off the right path. He was just going to be a playboy.
It was during this period that John discovered a new passion: acting.
He loved it. He loved it. His first was Cyrano of Bergerac. He was great on Cyrano. John was a charmer. He could charm a snake. He was on stage. He was just on his element. He loved it.
For John, acting was a chance to do his own thing and to escape for a moment the Kennedy name.
He was, in fact, very charming, playing roles of down and outers, alcoholics. This was what he was best at, not playing somebody from his own background. It gave him the freedom to be someone other than himself.
Deliberately avoiding Princeton and Harvard, where his father studied, John enrolled as a freshman at the smaller and more liberal Brown University. There, he was constantly monitored.
Jackie watched over John very closely, often in ways he didn't even know. I mean, she got his grades, she'd call his professors. She was omnipresent.
Jackie made sure John knew he must fulfill his duties as a Kennedy. He was often drafted in to introduce his Uncle Teddy at political functions.
Ladies and gentlemen, my Uncle Ted Kennedy.
And when he wanted to apply to drama school as a graduate student, Jackie insisted he study law.
It was Jackie who ultimately put her foot down regarding his acting career and who said, look, you're going to go to law school and you're going to study law and you're going to work.
Succumbing to intense pressure, John suppressed his passion for acting and reluctantly entered New York University Law School. It was the first step towards accepting his Kennedy inheritance. John is already more than 2 hours late for his scheduled flight. It's almost 7 p.m. when he picks up Lauren, his wife's sister. John originally planned to fly out of Essex County Airport for Martha's Vineyard at 5:30. But driving in Friday rush hour traffic, it will take him over an hour to get there, and he'll be forced to make the last crucial minutes of his flight in darkness. With no break in the traffic, John and Lauren are still at least 45 minutes from the airport. He could have called to reschedule the flight, but he did not. John's wife, Carolyn, has spent the afternoon shopping for a dress to wear to the family wedding. She decided to travel alone to Essex Airport. Now she too is stuck in traffic. She does not confer with John and her sister about the delay. Carolyn and John have always had a tempestuous relationship. When they met, she was well connected in the fashion industry. He was America's most eligible bachelor. They met when Carolyn was a shopping consultant for Calvin Klein. John fell madly in love.
They caught each other's eye, and that spark didn't go away. That spark turned into a big flame, in many ways.
They were America's golden couple, but by their last day, cracks have begun to appear. John has been accused of being insensitive. Some say Carolyn is controlling, a skilled manipulator.
My wife called her a witch, but a good witch. And that she had this power about her, a mystery and an intelligence, I think, more than anything. She didn't necessarily not let you know what she was thinking, but you knew that she understood you. She looked you in the eye, and you knew that she touched your soul a little bit, and you felt that, and you appreciated that in her. And John saw that right away with her. As I said, when I first saw her, I looked at the ground and tried to get out of the room, frankly. And they didn't even know each other that well yet. He was watching me react to her, and I think, and a lot of people react that way to her, and that was attractive to him.
They were two powerful personalities who couldn't seem to get along, even though they believed they were meant for each other.
John and Carolyn's relationship was really based on the idea that they were soulmates, that they'd found the counterpoint of each other. They were talking about kids and talking about him becoming a senator, and she'd smoothed out.
John and Carolyn make slow progress towards the airport.
What's the plan?
Whatever their hopes, their future together will be cut tragically short.
Slow news day, I guess, huh?
John, a lot of people waiting for you here. Sure. How do you feel about this? Is it true that you passed the bar?
Apparently it's true. I got the official word not long ago, so it's true.
What do you mean not long ago?
John began his career in law as an assistant district attorney in New York City.
Absolutely. What kind of cases are you looking forward to?
Well, whatever they give me.
John, all this attention there to the pressure.
Jackie was proud of her son, but her plans for John's future would soon be derailed.
He said, I'm no Clarence Darrow. What do you want out of my life? He didn't enjoy being a lawyer. That kind of lifestyle didn't suit him.
I mean, he wasn't a great DA. I mean, a lot of the bad guys were so delighted to meet John that they confessed. And he wasn't a prosecutor, okay? He was too nice to be a prosecutor.
John became restless and dreamed of starting a political magazine. But the greatest obstacle to achieving this new goal would again be tragedy. When John was 33 years old, Jackie Kennedy was diagnosed with cancer. Putting his dreams aside, John devoted himself to the care of his mother.
We always thought, oh, she's going to be okay, because she told me, I'm going to be okay, don't now get nervous about it.
But despite her courage and John's constant care, 5 months later, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis was dead.
What he suffered the most is after Madam died. It was a big, big void on his life.
For John, it was extraordinarily sad, but it was the evocation, the birth of a man. I mean, the day after she died, there he was in front of her building on 1045th Avenue in a blue suit, talking to the press.
My mother passed on. She was surrounded by her friends and her family.
Her death was horrible. It was the saddest I've ever seen. But he came out of it with her spirit firmly behind him.
It's a reading from the second letter of St. Paul to the Thessalonians. But I would not have you to be ignorant, brethren.
Jackie was gone, and although devastated by the loss, John Kennedy Jr. was now finally free to chart his own destiny.
She told him on her deathbed, go use your name. You earned it.
Delayed at the office and then by rush hour traffic, John Kennedy Jr. arrives at Essex Airport almost 3 hours behind schedule. He has less than 2 hours to live. John drops Lauren off at the terminal to wait for Carolyn while he drives to a nearby convenience store. He is relaxed as he goes about his normal routine, even though the sun is setting and it will soon be dark. Also, unknown to him, bad weather is moving in.
I actually was planning on making that same trip from Caldwell to Martha's Vineyard about three hours prior to John F. Kennedy Jr.'s departure, but I chose to cancel due to the reduced visibility in the weather.
Another pilot who has just landed and is aware of the reduced visibility tries to warn John. If this pilot had found John, it is possible that he might have changed his mind about flying. But John is now at the convenience store, calmly signing autographs for excited well-wishers.
He had decided before making the trip that he was going to do it by himself. John felt, well, look, I'm out of this contraption in my ankle. My ankle feels good. I'm taking pain pills, but nevertheless, I'm ready to go.
For John, the physical limitation was a challenge. That was the Kennedy way.
This is a family that's out there that lives on the edge. They feel somehow that the only way that they can enjoy life is by living it in the most extreme sense. And if you do that enough, I mean, the odds are bound to take hold.
He did not take excessive risks in the sense that I saw some of his other family members doing. But when it came to flying, he was almost anal. I went up with my family the week before, and I would have gone up the week after. When he landed, it was beautiful.
You know, a lot of people said to me, why didn't you warn him? It would have been completely inappropriate for me to warn him or to give him advice, because I don't know his proficiency, I don't know, what his skill level is, and I don't know if there's a pilot or an instructor on the airplane with him.
It's now 8:25 p.m. John had originally planned to make this trip in daylight. Leaving now means that soon he will be flying in the dark over the Atlantic Ocean.
Is that John's plane over there?
Yes, that's John's plane.
Is that his wife?
Yes, that's his wife.
We should go over. Let's go. Thank you.
Tragically, one of Jackie Kennedy's last wishes would have saved her son's life had he kept his word.
She exacted from John a promise that he wouldn't pursue flying lessons after her death. But after her death, he did, in fact, resume them.
John couldn't resist his passion for flying. He began with ultralight planes, then bought a Cessna and quickly got his pilot's license.
I know that he seemed very happy in an airplane when I was with him. It gave him a lot of joy, I know that.
3 months before he died, John purchased a Piper Saratoga, a much faster, more powerful aircraft. Flying was his escape route from all the public attention.
John had an illusion that ordinary people had a kind of freedom he didn't have. He didn't see that you and I are imprisoned in our way just as he was. And he saw it in flying as a way to have that absolute freedom, go above the clouds, and he was his own person.
The year after his mother's death, John fulfilled an ambition she would have been proud of. He launched his political magazine, George,
Ladies and gentlemen, meet George.
to huge critical acclaim.
The beginning of George was like an eagle taking off for him, that he happened to be riding. He loved it, the creative process, the fact that he had come up with a business idea and it seemed to make sense. It wasn't just coming together because of his name. It was journalism. He loved that. His favorite part of George was talking to the Dalai Lama and even Larry Flint. He loved this interview with Larry Flint because Larry's kind of the ultimate rebel in a way. And the Supreme Court ruling, that's who John... Larry Flint was an underdog. And that's who John associated with. I mean, how could John Kennedy Jr. be an underdog? That's who we thought he was.
Politics is not merely pulling a lever on Election Day or covering a debate on Capitol Hill. Politics is really about personalities and ideas. It's about
he found himself with George. I mean, even if it failed, he knew all that magazine had done for him, and it had given an entree to a whole new world.
After years of trying to find his place in the world, it seemed that by his early 30s, John Jr. was poised to create his own version of what it means to be a Kennedy. It was a vision that, tragically, would never be realized.
Why don't we see any lights, John? John!
John Kennedy Jr. is about to fly with his wife and sister-in-law to a family wedding in Martha's Vineyard.
Good.
It is now 8:35 p.m. Only an hour of daylight remains. John should have left at 5:30. Each individual pilot has to make his own decision to fly after careful consideration of all the variables.
Ready to taxi, wind Mike. Right turn around, northeast bound. Affirmative.
8:34 p.m. John contacts air traffic control. The conditions on the ground are slightly hazy.
The problem with haze is that you can take off and the first 1,000 feet or so as you're climbing out could be clear. But when you get higher, you could enter a haze layer and not be prepared for it. And that happens very often in the summer.
John is only certified for Visual Flight Rules, or VFR.
Ready to go, guys?
The theory behind VFR is that you will be able to maneuver the airplane by looking out the window and being able to determine the plane's relationship to the horizon.
When the horizon is not visible, the pilot is essentially flying blind. To be certified to fly under these conditions, a pilot must go through rigorous training, learning to use only instruments to navigate.
Making it right down for departure. Affirmative, right down with departure on 22.
John has very limited expertise in instrument navigation and is not certified. As they take off, John has left a goodwill note, which he will never read. John's departure is now so late that Lauren's hosts for her weekend on Martha's Vineyard arrive to pick her up just as she is leaving.
Lauren Bissett. She's flying in with John and Carolyn. Are they here yet?
Haven't seen the plane. We checked with air traffic control.
John could have filed a flight plan as he left, but he did not.
It's a good idea, particularly on a night flight, to file a VFR flight plan. The advantage being that once you file and activate it, there will be someone waiting for you to cancel it when you arrive at your destination.
Some people will say John took too many risks, but he had to take those risks to assert his own manhood. Yes, it was too much, but the question is how far and where do you stop? And he was somewhat addicted to it. He just needed the rush.
Daylight is rapidly diminishing. In less than an hour, John, Carolyn, and Lauren will be dead. One year earlier, it seemed John Kennedy Jr. was set to fulfill the expectations of an adoring American public. His political magazine, George, was doing well. He was moving in all the right political circles, and he'd found the woman he wanted to spend his life with, publicist Carolyn Bissett.
How was the honeymoon, John? Hold it, please, for us. Look this way. Oh!
Foiling intense media speculation, he orchestrated a secret wedding on Cumberland Island off the Georgia coast.
John, we're not getting you. Can you look back up and look this way, Carolyn?
We weren't supposed to tell anybody. I remember when they told me in July. You know, it was a long time to keep it until September.
I remember him pumping his fist that they'd gotten it done. Like, yes, we did it. To her satisfaction. And it was a wonderful wedding, it really was.
The wedding made headlines around the world. They were portrayed as the perfect couple. But sparks flew between Carolyn and John from the moment they met.
He liked the fact that there was trouble there. And it wasn't until he married her, he saw that the trouble wasn't going to end.
She was strong-willed. I mean, she had her own point of view. She was not some little housewife or something like that was just going to sit there. She had sophisticated friends when she met them. She had a nice life. She comes from a very nice family. I mean, she had her own personality, and she had her own point of view.
As they faced up to their problems, the media onslaught was unbearable for Carolyn.
There was always some guy lurking around, and who would take her picture or run up to her, or just invade her space. And I don't think anybody can be prepared for that.
Then rumors of Carolyn's drug use began to surface in the tabloids.
Carolyn used coke the way most people used coke from that generation. When they partied, it's the chosen recreational drug of the fashion industry.
Next, John was spotted with ex-girlfriends and affairs were suspected, something his friends dispute.
He's a monogamous guy, frankly. You see his loyalty with his friends. It was the same things with his girlfriends. He had every skirt thrown at him on earth, frankly. He was an innocent. He was very innocent on that level, and you'd like to think that he was a little maybe more mysterious, but frankly, he stuck to his knitting.
Most damaging, John's magazine began to fail, and his ability to live up to his father's legacy was questioned. John hoped to save his marriage. He wanted his magazine to thrive again, and he wanted to establish his own reputation. All he needed was time. The sun has set. It's now nautical twilight. It's hazy, but not totally obscure. It will be completely dark in 10 minutes. For now, John is still able to fly with visual references.
As you get farther away from New York City, you're not going to be able to see lights enough to give you a straight line for the horizon. It's basically a black hole.
Flying over water at nighttime, you pretty much lose that horizon. You're solely referencing your instruments.
"20 minutes from his destination, John has two possible routes. He can fly up the coast to Connecticut and Rhode Island, keeping the lights on the shoreline as a visual reference, and then turn south over Cape Cod to the airport at Martha's Vineyard. This route will only add 5 minutes to his flight time.
Of all my trips I made to Martha's Vineyard, I've always flown that particular route because it puts you over water the least distance.
Or he can take a riskier but shorter route and leave the coast and fly a direct line straight out over Rhode Island Sound and the Atlantic Ocean, a distance of 34 miles from the airport at Martha's Vineyard. Choosing the route is a pivotal decision.
Okay, we're leaving the coast.
There goes the coastline.
John chooses to fly the direct route, out over the ocean, into the void. This choice will cost him his life. In just 2 minutes, John will be flying in complete darkness. In 5 minutes, he'll be dead.
John, are we lost?
No, we're fine. Sit back.
Why don't we see any lights, John?
John is flying at 5,500 feet in complete darkness. He is 34 miles from the airport at Martha's Vineyard. He cannot see any visual landmarks, but he starts to descend. 9:39 p.m. There is still no sign of the lights at the airport.
Can you see anything out there?
John levels off at 2,500 feet and searches desperately for some visual reference, a light, a horizon line, stars, anything to give him a sense of direction.
John!
He starts to become disoriented.
Spatial disorientation occurs when you don't refer to your instruments, and the natural tendency is to believe what your body is telling you.
John does not have enough experience in his new plane and is ill-equipped to fly in these conditions. He relies on his instincts just when he needs to focus on his instruments. The plane now banks sharply to the left and climbs. 9:40 p.m. Trying desperately to compensate for the left bank, he turns the yoke hard to the right. The plane slides into a descent, speeding toward the ocean. Completely disoriented, John believes the plane is now level and yanks the yoke towards him to bring the nose up. Instead, the plane banks even more to the right. The engine races as it picks up speed and enters a free fall called the graveyard spiral. The Saratoga plummets towards the ocean. There is no way John can recover.
I miss him, you know, I miss the little boy I knew, and, you know, I couldn't believe that he was going to finish this way.
Coast Guard will resume its air search in the morning.
Around the world, feelings of shock and disbelief resonate as news spreads of John Kennedy Jr.'s disappearance. The media descends on Martha's Vineyard as a massive search is ordered.
I knew that he was dead. They couldn't find him, but planes don't go missing.
There is a suitcase with a business card, and the business card attached to a little plastic insert within the suitcase is in the name of Lauren Bassett.
John Kennedy Jr. died on the 16th of July, 1999. 6 days later, on the USS Briscoe, the Kennedys once again gather to bury one of their own as an entire nation mourns. With his death, the world will never know what his true contribution might have been.